Okay, call this meeting to order, August 18, 2022. It is now 6:02. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised in the Asbury Park Press and the Beacon on January 20, 2022 by posting notice in the Forked River Post Office and the local Harbor Post Office, and by filing a copy of the notice with the Lacey Township Clerk as required by the Open Public Meeting Act. Roll call, please.
Mr. Armato?
Here.
Mrs. Claus?
Here.
Mr. Peters?
Present.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Here.
Mrs. Downing?
Here.
Mr. Scanlon?
Here.
Mr. Polino?
Here.
Okay. So for executive session, whereas the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4, is designed to ensure that decision-making government bodies in the state conduct their business in public, except in specific circumstances where exclusion of the public is needed in order to protect the privacy of individuals, the safety of the public, or the effectiveness of government in such areas as negotiations or investigations. And whereas in such circumstances, a closed or executive session may be held without public notice or during the course of a public meeting, providing that the subject matter of the executive session is covered by the law. Therefore, be it resolved that an executive session be convened for the purpose of discussing confidential legal matters, including but not limited to the current caseload, confidential personnel matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. The length of the executive session is estimated to be approximately 90 minutes. The board shall reconvene and proceed with business at 7:30 p.m. and action may be taken. Motion?
Move.
Second. Kim? Okay, all in favor?
Aye. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to continue our meeting now. We're out of executive session, as you can see. So, I'm going to start off with the report of the superintendent. Right?
Yeah, I am. All right. Welcome, everybody. Hard to believe it is August, but school opens in exactly 18 days on September 6th. It was a fast summer. Too fast. So, since school closed in June, we have been busy, as we always are in the summer months. So as I typically do in August, while you were all enjoying summer vacations and the nice beach weather, as we were too, we got a lot done, and we're still doing it. So our custodial grounds and maintenance staff cleared 650,000 square feet of school buildings, cared for 150 acres of school grounds, playgrounds, and athletic fields, and they look amazing. In fact, we just scheduled a board tour for the last week of August, and the board will do a walkthrough to just take a look at how great the classrooms look and how great all of our fields look. Our guidance counselors, child study team members, secretarial staff prepared over 4,000 student schedules and class lists. Our administrative team is working still on those master schedules, conducted numerous interviews to hire outstanding staff, many of whom are here tonight, participated in professional development, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Transportation department is in the process of preparing over 160 bus routes. So kudos to Maria Valiente and her team. It is no small feat. Our summer enrichment program and our extended school year programs, huge success. The feedback that we are getting from our parents and our students is tremendous. So I thank all of our teachers. You didn't get as much of a summer break as you typically do, and I know that the classrooms were full. Some of our board members had the opportunity to see the concert at the end of the school year just last week at the middle school. That was phenomenal. And finally, our teachers and administrators have spent a considerable amount of time working on curriculum, including the much discussed and debated comprehensive health and PE standards, which, again, I'm going to talk about a little bit later. I'm going to start with some amazing news, which I'm sure by now you have all heard. The great news about the naming of the Lacey Township High School football field named after Coach Lou Versillo. And so this upcoming football season is a time for us to be very grateful for that. Coach Lou Versillo has been our Lacey Lions head football coach since the opening of our school, this high school, in 1981. It's a long time. Throughout his 42 years, he has shown unbelievable commitment and dedication like no other. He has led his players to 294 wins, 15 conference titles, and 4 state championships. There's a lot of words that we can use to describe Coach Lou. Some of them that come to mind are integrity, hard work, loyalty, pride, and most of all, tradition for all of his players. So congratulations to him. We are going to celebrate that dedication and the naming of the football field on Friday, August 26th at 6:00 p.m. and it would be great if we can pack the stadium. So if you're available that night and you want to join us, that is where we will all be. Okay, so I'm going to transition. Mr. Zielinski is not here this evening, but I'm going to talk about the Listen and Learn that we have scheduled for the 25th. But so far, as it relates to our health and phys ed curriculum, primarily health, we've sent out 2 communications. The first one on August 3rd provided an overview of the process we are following to prepare for the new school year. And in that letter, I mentioned that the proposed maps would be shared with the curriculum committee of the board. That happened on August 11th. The rest of the board was provided access to review the curriculum maps, and I know that each of you have done that. The second communication we sent out was on August 15th, and that provided families with information on how to access the health curriculum, which is currently on our website. And there was information there on how to submit specific questions or comments via email. So the last piece of this is that a communication will go out on Monday, this coming Monday, about the curriculum Listen and Learn that is scheduled for next Thursday, the 25th at 5:30 p.m. That's going to be here at the high school in the media center. The evening is going to begin with a brief presentation about the 2020 standards, and that's going to be followed by a public comment period. We're going to record that public feedback, and then we're going to take that back to administration and to the board. And we're going to, take a look at our curriculum once again based on that feedback. And that night, we're also going to be sharing a draft form of the opt-out form that we've developed for our families to opt out. And there are several versions of that. So that's all going to be done on the 25th. And like I said, an email will go out with information about that, which is just an outline of what I just said. Final few comments. I also wanted to mention that the topic of student and staff safety was also at the top of our list this summer. And 2 items that I want to mention that are noteworthy is, I want to reiterate to the entire school community that it has our attention, but our commitment to having an armed retired police officer in each of our schools stands strong. So tonight we are hiring our 6th police officer who's going to join our class 3s and our 1 school safety officer. So retired police officer Nick Norton happens to be here if you want to wave to everybody. And he will join officers Lou Brignola, Roger Santos, Steve Russell, Bobby Johnson, and Frank Bruno. I've had numerous conversations with Chief DeBella. He is going to be meeting with all of the officers to plan and train for the upcoming school year. So we look forward to working with you, Nick, as well as working with our officers that have been with us for quite some time. The second piece of information that's noteworthy is that next week we are going to be doing a reunification training, a 2-day training. One critical aspect of crisis response is accountable reunification. So we've come a long way in Lacey with the installation of our security vestibules, the updating of our visitor management protocols, ALICE training. We are an ALICE certified district. Every single one of our employees not only receive the online training, but the hands-on. We ensure that we keep up with that when we hire new employees. So the standard reunification method, which is what we will be trained in, provides our district with this proven method for achieving successful reunification. So the entire district safety team will be there, our entire administration, members of our police department, administrators, EMS, board members have been invited, so if they're available, I'd hope that they'd stop by. Our principals sent out an email in the last few days asking for teacher volunteers to participate in that as well. It's an important piece. So that's going to be taking place on the 23rd and the 24th from 8 a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. First day is classroom work, and then the second day is all hands-on. So when we think about school safety and security, I personally, that was the one thing keeping me up at night, is that we didn't have this proven method for reunification. And so I'm really looking forward to that training and what comes after that. So.
Right.
Okay, I will. So maybe some of you are sitting there asking what reunification training is. So, and reunification can mean a lot of things, but if the unthinkable happens, and we know that it's been in the news, if there is an active shooter situation and parts of the building evacuate, where do those students go? But more importantly is, how do we get those students back with their parents? And that's it in a nutshell. That's reunification training. So it's coming up with a systematic plan that helps us do that in an orderly way, so that that piece of the crisis should be the least of our concerns. So that's what it is.
Thank you.
Better? Okay, thank you. All right, and then final comment is just a huge, tremendous thank you to our custodial staff who have been working so hard, our secretaries who've been answering phones and dealing with our parents who have concerns about schedules and all kinds of concerns. Our teachers who worked so hard this past summer, who will be in the classroom setting the classrooms up, our administrators, transportation, grounds, maintenance, our bus drivers, the list goes on and on. So we could not open school without all of them. Schools don't just magically come together and poof, open. It takes a lot of collaborative, concerted efforts, and I thank all of the people involved. I'm grateful for our amazing staff. Enjoy the final weeks of summer, and we will see you in 16 days. 18. 18. Did I say 16? 18 days, yes.
See, I'm paying attention.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, at this point, we are going to go to public comments. So an audience member wishing to make a comment will raise his or her hand, and when called upon, state their name, address, affiliation, intention to make a statement. Comments will be addressed to the board president. Comments will be made on one issue at a time. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes. No audience member shall be recognized twice until all who have wished to comment have been recognized. And this portion of the meeting is for public comments only, and there will be no questions answered. The purpose of this board meeting is to perform our business in public. Everyone is entitled to a public comment. If there is a question for the board, there's an established chain of command to follow. Okay. With that,
Good evening, Lacey citizens. Fasten your seatbelts, it's going to be a bumpy night. At last month's board meeting, Mr. Polino and Mrs. McAvoy both said that I have nothing nice to say about the school district. They tend to forget that I see myself as a taxpayer's advocate. I don't see it as my job to praise the school district. I leave that up to others. I do see it as my job to make sure that the school is spending our funds appropriately, that the children are getting the proper education, and that the parents and the taxpayers are satisfied. I've made numerous suggestions to this board over the years, yet they have not incorporated any of them. Some of them could have helped the school being in a better position than it is now on so many areas. For example, 1, return the budget to the public and allow the public to decide the budget via a referendum. Create a committee on the budget that is made up of citizens who understand finance and understand education to help assist the CFO create a budget that is palatable to all stakeholders. Insert in the school superintendent's contracts goals and objectives which must be met within a timely frame. Negotiate in the teacher's contract that performance evaluations attached to student achievement must be incorporated. Start running the school district as a business, meaning profit and losses, and stop increasing taxes and forcing the taxpayers to have to continue to pay where you're unwilling to make the changes that need to be made to make the school district more financially sound. 6, spend more energy and time on academics instead of athletics. This is a school district, after all, not a sports club. I want to see, and so do the parents, major improvements in academic achievement in the school district. 7, create a plan to make the school district an overachieving one and follow through on it. If this current superintendent is unable to get the school district up to a higher level, then I suggest we find someone else for the job. This is a business, after all, and needs to be run as such. The superintendent is the executive and should be held accountable. By doing this would put the fire under her and her administration to start cracking the whip and getting the job done. 7, the school district is pretty much known as being a job factory. You can't run a school district as a job factory and have a bottom line. How many teachers do we really need is the question. We've had a 25% reduction over the years in enrollment, but I've not seen a 25% reduction in staff, nor have I seen a 25% reduction in finance. The board claims they have health insurance costs are eating away. Why is that supposed to be my concern? There are other health insurance policies in the state plan that the school district could choose, which are much cheaper and would save the school district a hell of a lot of money. I know this is something that you negotiate, but have you ever really tried to negotiate? As I said, the board holds all the cards and the teachers cannot strike. Tough decisions need to be made, and they should have been made a long time ago. You wouldn't be in the position that you're in. Many years ago, I warned this board about the impending financial crisis which is headed their way. Nobody did anything about it. Now we have tears and crying that they don't have any money. That's your job, to plan and make contingencies for when things go downhill. Again, this board has failed the public who it is responsible to and who it serves. Mrs. McAvoy, in the response to your comments, one which was made 2 months ago saying that I was fake news when I mentioned that the legal bills for all the ethics charges were over $100,000 is truth, not a lie. I know you have been made aware of your error. I recommend you, before you open up your mouth and say things about a public member who is a taxpayer who seems to know more about what is going on in this school district than you do, that you get
Oh,
your
my
facts straight.
goodness. Too much.
You, in fact, were and are fake news.
Oh, okay.
You also made a comment at the last meeting that you, the board, are not bad people. I could not judge your character, as I do not know any one of you personally, but I can judge your actions as board members. And in my honest and very humble opinion, you are bad board members. And for that, you can put that down on the record as truth. Mr. Polino, you have utterly disgraced the position you hold with your rant at the July board meeting. I don't think the board nor the public needs any more evidence that you are unfit to serve. The board also has disgraced itself by just sitting there, allowing you to make such a spectacle of yourself. The example you set is clearly of one who cares little and who dishonors the position that you hold. So much so that you have disgraced yourself. Another new low set by yourself and this thoroughly disgraced board. And for your information, the entourage, as you like to call them, are the citizens of Lacey Township who actually expect fiscal and educational responsibility by this board. May I suggest that if you are all in this to get your ego stroked with praise, that you find something else to entertain that fantasy. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else?
Regina DeSenza, Sunset Drive, Sunrise Beach. I distributed a photo to the board. There was a conversation about this last year by Mr. Scanlon. I just wanted to remind everyone. Resolution number 29 on page 10, amen to that issue. Last year I was in the middle school library and I couldn't find the 9/11 books that I donated to the libraries. I hope that they can be found by the teachers and or librarians this year, because these are very good pictures, and the students in our current school system mostly do not remember 9/11 and probably haven't even seen pictures, because I don't think they're in the textbooks at this time. Okay. The next comment I have, I want everyone to know that Mr. Armato, Mr. Scanlon, and Mrs. Claus are totally exempt from this comment. Let me tell you a little story about over $109,000 spent on the legal defense fees on those ethics cases since December of 2019. Lacey Township 30-year school board member, incumbent Linda Downing, who unfortunately is absent tonight, has announced her bid for an 11th term a few weeks ago. I found that to be amazing. In December 2019, she and former Lacey School Board President Sean Giordano went behind my back and gave the school board attorney permission to investigate me for ethics charges after the November 2019 school board election did not work out in their favor. I was supporting the non-incumbents. The powers that be were deathly afraid that I might get control of the school board if Team 147 had won that 2019 three-seat election. 4 is a majority, of course, on this Lacey 7-member school board. When announcing her candidacy a few weeks ago, the 3-person ticket that Ms. Downing is running on used "commitment with integrity" as their 3-word slogan. What about the children? In my opinion, there is zero integrity in Ms. Downing. Why? Let me explain. In 30 years, she hasn't learned that school board members are not employees. Any discussions about school board members or their actions must be in the public setting, not behind closed doors, even if it's litigation related. Voting or siding with each other by telephone calls and text messages doesn't count as a legal board decision under any circumstances, yet that's exactly what was done. The Toms River School Board knew how to have a public discussion about their board member Dan Leonard when they thought his social media comments were damaging, and their board attorney told them they could not proceed with charges. A board as a whole cannot bring charges against a member. 30 years' experience should have known that. Nor can the board use public funds or the board attorney, but Lacey's Board of Ed did just that. Individuals must bring school ethics charges against BOE members. Downing and Giordano clearly violated the Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussion about me or my alleged actions should have been in the public setting. Instead, the Lacey School Board attorney proceeded with the investigation of me, billed the district over $5,000 in legal research fees, which the board approved and I abstained because I figured it was about me. I'm not stupid. Then the board attorney gave his findings to Mr. Giordano to write up as a suit against me. I think that fits the definition of plagiarizing, in my opinion. Board members were absolutely allowed to bring their own charges against me. However, they needed to do it with their own funds and not with the board attorney. The board attorney should have advised them of such, but he did not. Therefore, I brought him up on ethics charges of his own in another venue. I was his client too, and he failed to protect me. These suits are all ongoing over 2.5 years. I countersued for misuse of the board attorney, etc. The NJDOE OAL hearings are now scheduled for October 2022. Over $100,000 has been depleted from the NJSIG insurance coverage, and an initial $5,000 had been paid by the school district as the deductible for these cases. Unfortunately, at this time, the taxpayers will be fully responsible for all the remaining legal fees until these 4 cases are settled. C-7319, Rozzi versus Giordano. C-02-20, Marcatello versus Giordano. C-04-20, Desenza versus Giordano. And Giordano et al. Versus Desenza, C-7519. The others that signed with Mr. Giordano are Ms. Downing, as I mentioned, Mr. Polino, the current board president, Mr. Peters, Mrs. McAvoy, and Nick Moranzi. There is no gag order on any of these cases, but they cannot be obtained on an OPRA because they don't become public documents until there is a decision. But they can be found on the DOE Ethics Commission agendas posted on their website if anyone doubts I speak the truth. Collusion and integrity do not belong in the same sentence, and I can furnish my case details to anyone that wants it, since I am the complainant on one and the respondent on the other. I can come back after everyone else speaks?
Sure.
Okay, I will finish with the numbers.
Does anybody else wish to come up? Over here.
Hello, my name is Kristen. I'm a resident of Lacey Township. I never come up and speak. I don't have a piece of paper with a speech on it, but I've been at almost every board meeting, and I just have to say, I'm disgusted. Other than Sal, especially with Polino there. Every single time a resident comes up and speak, and I watch every single one of you, you don't even look at the person and listen. You're ignoring these comments. And it's disgusting. If you can't take your job seriously, and at least McAvoy looks up and listens, all of you, other than Kim, you don't look, you don't listen, you jot down on your little notepads, okay? Yeah, you too.
You're right. I'm listening and taking
No,
notes.
no, you're definitely not.
Don't even let her finish.
No, you're definitely not.
So now you're a mind reader.
Let her.
I literally watch you every single, and I never come up here and speak. I watch every one of you, and I videotape everything. And I have every single comment that Polino made, even last meeting, threatening to reopen a case with masks. Masks aren't even out right now. How are you even gonna win that? What, a prosecutor feels bad? That's idiotic. And I will be behind my friends. I will fight with them. You sound like an idiot. That's it.
Next. Mr. Rogers. Okay.
Hi, my name is Melody Pryor. I'm a Lacey Township. This actually pertains to the agenda. First thing is, it might sound kind of silly, but that clock, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. I think it's very expensive. Can we take it down, or at least then maybe put something else up or cover it? Because it's confusing. Wait, hold on. Though, besides, it is humorous right now saying it, but it's confusing because we have that clock and then we have that clock. You know, sometimes you might have somebody with a disability in here and they're looking at two different clocks. It's just kind of silly, and it's just, maybe we could just take it down, or you could take down, put something, or fix it, or call whoever did it. It can't be that old in technology, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from our agenda. Number 17 on the agenda, is that an ELA program?
What page are you on, Melody?
Of course, I didn't bring the agenda down with me.
Conversation? Frank, you have it in your minutes. You have it in your notes, conversation.
Yeah, what about
Always
it?
make everybody
I think that's
scramble.
what she's asking about.
Number 17, let's see, page
I
5.
believe. What page? Page 5.
Page 5, purchase of controllers.
Yes, that'll be discussed in the committee meeting, committee minutes.
Pardon?
That'll be discussed in the committee minutes.
Okay. So we don't know if that's an ELA program.
Frank, Mr. Polino's going to do curriculum minutes, and he'll outline that and several others. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then on number 27, which I don't know if that'll be clarified later, will this dress code that you're going to discuss, is this going to be enforced? We're going to have a dress code, and is it actually going to be enforced? I know a lot of parents are hoping that, and thank you for looking at me. When I speak, thank you for looking at me, because I did notice that sitting up here. And I do appreciate you looking up at me. I'm making a comment, and it means a lot. It does mean a lot to the people who are speaking. So thank you very much. And do you know if the dress code will be enforced?
So it's on for first read. Policy committee has been working on it. And
Great.
of course, it will be enforced.
And it will be enforced. Okay, and it will, well, we'll find out more as more unfolds. Okay, thank you so much for your time and everything that you do and giving me your attention. Thank you. Have a beautiful night.
Good evening. Gavin Rossi, Forked River, New Jersey. Picking up where Ms. DeSenza left off, I am complaint number one in the ethics cases. I read a really interesting article in the Asbury Park Press last week, and this actually directly has implications for us here in Lacey Township. The title of the article was, Ocean County GOP paid for private detective agency to spy on its members. Now, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. This is why good people don't get involved in politics. And it almost directly mirrors the persecution of my former running mate, Mr. Armato. So this is what they said. This involved the former Ocean County GOP chairman, Frank Holman, of the firm Holman, Frenia, Allison, which is this board's auditing firm, and the organization's then treasurer, Mr. Jerry Canati, brother of school board candidate Jack Canati. And what they did is they essentially laundered money from the campaign committee through a middleman through another attorney so that there would be no record of the Ocean County GOP paying to spy on rival Republican candidates during the primary campaign. I'm going to read from the article. In an email entitled Lamb, dated April 18th, Assemblyman Greg McGuckin wrote to the organization's then treasurer, Jerry Canati, quote, Jerry, Frank did not want the OCGOP to retain an investigator for the opposition research issues. I spoke to Kevin Reardon, Esquire, and he's more than willing to assist. I confirm with Frank that he is okay with Kevin. Can you send a check payable for the amount to this individual's address? So what they did is they did just that. And this is really concerning for this board because Mr. Canati is the auditor of record for this board. So when we had the ethics cases, we had the scandalous conduct of Mr. Supsey making a number of questionable legal judgments. I mean, in his legal bills, he referred to the investigation of me as a personnel matter. That's news to me because I've never gotten a pay stub as personnel from this district. I would make the argument that that's a fraudulent legal bill, and Ms. DeSenza was very justified in her ethics complaints on that avenue. So I call on this board, Mr. President, to seriously reevaluate the professional services firms that this board is utilizing. You did the right thing by canning the Stein and Supsey firm. I commend you for that. I think it's time to do the same with Holman, Frenia, Allison. This is scandalous, sending private investigators to chill political opponents. It raises a lot of questions and it mirrors the unethical behavior of our former school board president. And I'll remind you, the School Ethics Commission issued a probable cause notice in my complaint, unlike some of these other complaints flying around about masks. And I also call on the Canati, Scanlon, and Downing slate to condemn this behavior. This is wrong, and I think it also raises implications of conflicts of interest. If Mr. Canati is going to join the board and he is successful, he will definitely not be able to vote on any dealings with his brother's firm. Similar to Ms. Downing, who, because of her lifetime connections to employees, cannot vote or evaluate the superintendent, which is one of the most important jobs of board members. So I'm a good government advocate. I'm here from that perspective for good government. I thank you for the time, and I hope you'll seriously reconsider these professional services firms we're dealing with. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Hello, so my name is Cheryl Armato. I'm Lacey Township President. So this is about curriculum, which I know you will address, but we will not be here, we'll be in South Carolina. So I took the liberty to look at some of the curriculum. Now I'm just gonna go over some 12th grade vocabulary, because you're gonna go 8th. So I have a 12th grader and an 8th grader. So I spent about an hour and a half doing my own Google research to get some definitions. I'm not gonna read you definitions, but was I confused? So here are some of the vocabulary words for 8th grade, and I'm only going over this because some parents might not even know. So it's ally, asexual, biphobia, bisexual, cisgender, general dysphoria, gender expansive, gender expression, gender fluid, gender identity, gender nonconforming, gender queer, intersex, non-binary, pansexual, queer, questioning, sex assigned at birth, sexual orientation, transgender, sexuality, sexual identity, relationship, love, infatuation, emotional intimacy, sexual intimacy, dating violence, domestic violence, and this is where you confuse me, rape, date rape, acquaintance rape. I thought rape was rape. There's 3 different rapes apparently, and sex trafficking. I'm really serious about that. Like I was talking to my son today and I said, if someone says no, it's no. There's no 3 different types of rape. I don't even know where you're going with that one. So in looking at the law, it says the 2020 inclusion law will be incorporated into ELA, math, social studies, science, etc. Not from you guys, but I read that in the state law. So, but the law does say in an appropriate place, decided by the school's Board of Education. So I'm asking the Board of Education, I know you keep referring to the parents, it looks like the board can say no to this. So, I mean, I don't know, this is what I'm reading, so you can advise me if I'm wrong, but if that's the case, why is this even up for discussion? Why isn't this absolutely no, we're not gonna bring it in there? I don't understand. I showed this to my 12th grader, and he said, Ma, because it also asked you how many genders, it was gonna be a test, and he said, there's 2 genders. So where are the rights of the children that believe there's 2 genders? And not that this is disrespectful to the people who have all these different things going on, but why does my son or my daughter have to learn about this? It doesn't pertain to them. So they can have respect for others, but they don't need to know all of this stuff. So, obviously I would opt out, but I'm just reading this because I don't think a lot of parents have taken the time to look at this, and this is no joke. This is some crazy stuff they want to, this is confusing. Take a look at these words. Spend an hour Googling this. This is the most confusing thing. I was testing myself on it. I was totally confused. So, and I went to college, and I'm 53 years old, and I got 53 years of life without knowing all this stuff, and it was very confusing to me. So, no, when you're talking about 18-year-olds, their brains aren't fully developed till they're 23. You want to confuse them, start teaching them this stuff. So I asked the board, please, just don't even bring this into our district. That's all I want to say. Don't even opt in. Don't even do it. Thank you, that was all I wanted to say.
Jessica DeLuca. I too am just going to touch a little bit on the curriculum because I also went ahead and took a look and was just dumbfounded by all of it. But I'm a little bit upset too because I did send an email over the summer to Dr. Pereira, and I specifically said that there's many other towns that are just saying no. Just say no, the old slogan, that's what we are allowed to do. So that is one thing that I absolutely 100% feel, as Cheryl has indicated, that we can and we should just say no. And of course, if you feel like you can't, then we should not have to opt out. We should be able to, it should be an opt-in. Let those parents of those students that have other concerns that want to learn this stuff, let them opt in. By 2nd grade, so that's a 7 and 8-year-old, which is what I had, demonstrate how to communicate personal boundaries and how to show respect to someone else's personal boundaries, including friends and family. How are you going to do that? That's a little concerning to me as a mom. Why are you telling my kid who is safe? That's a little concerning because there's a little bit of a fine line because there are some weirdos out there. And guess what? I teach my children that. I don't think it should be up to the school or the board to tell my children who they should identify as a good person. Then it goes into about 5th grade. Differentiate between gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation. 5th grade, these are 10-year-olds that you have to teach about sexual orientation. No, I don't want you to teach my child at 10 years old about any kind of anything sexual, period. By 8th grade, describe pregnancy tests, the signs of pregnancy, the pregnancy options, including parenting, abortion, and adoption. What are you going to do? Have a student pee on a stick? I mean, this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous for 12 and 14-year-olds. These are for 8th grade. Your 8th graders are going to know all about STDs, gonorrhea, chlamydia, genital herpes, syphilis, genital warts, HPV, vaginitis, hepatitis B, pubic lice, scabies, bacterial infection, viral, parasitic, abstinence, oral sex, vaginal sex, and anal sex by 8th grade. Despicable. Despicable. Then it goes into the other thing. Wait, now they're going to teach you how to protect yourself. Abstinence, birth control, not just birth control, not just saying that we're going to give you birth control. the patch, the pill, contraceptive injections, IUD, vaginal rings, condoms, spermicides, diaphragms, cervical cap. And half of these I don't even know about. This is absurd. Absurd. You are giving our children a handbook and you are grooming them to become sexually active. It is disturbing. Absolutely disturbing. I'm getting worked up here. In my personal opinion, I feel that anybody that has carried out this NJEA, carrying out, writing this curriculum, everything, right down to the teachers that will be forced to teach it, you are all perverts in my eyes. What happened to allowing our children to be children? I understand that with the internet, there's a lot of kids that see things, but why do we have to emphasize sexuality, sexual intercourse, STDs? What about the kids that are not advanced? Some of this literature here, they will be completely embarrassed during those particular sessions. You're grooming them to be sexually active. I strongly suggest that you say a hard no to adding any of this garbage to the curriculum. Mr. Polino, your rant last meeting was despicable and completely unprofessional. You calling us an entourage is completely out of line. You are attempting to make us out to be domestic terrorists and convicts. You are no longer a police officer, might I add. However, the truth is, we are concerned parents sticking up for our children, and we have no voice because this board is too stubborn to listen to the public. The CDC just came out and said that masks and 6 feet rule were unnecessary. So all that stuff that you made our children do was out the window right now. That's what we, the parents, were saying all along, but the board was too weak to stand up for our children. And now the same thing is happening with this health and physical education curriculum. I would like to clear up how our case went down. There were numerous requests to the boards to hold the meeting off the property, and for those that had medical mask exemptions could attend. The board said no, and even their one excuse was that we couldn't have it offsite at a restaurant because there could be alcohol there. Don't know what the hell that's all about, but that was an actual rebuttal. Months later, we found out their guidelines for virtual option were all along, all in their board, in your bylaws, all along. Mr. Polino, would you like to think that you were an irrational and selfish parent? That is not the case.
That's time, Mr. DeLuca, thank you.
I'll come back to things.
Vote him out. Vote him out. Vote him out.
Anyone else? Mr. Senza, go ahead.
Regina DeSenza, Sunset Drive, Sunrise Beach. So I Oprah'd all the bills on Oprah machine from the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group. If anyone wants to review these legal bills, they are public information on the website, oprahmachine.com. Look under NJSIG, the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group. So far to date, Mr. Christopher Dasty is the top legal biller to defend Mr. Giordano at $57,663.86. The runner-up is now my attorney at less than half that, at $26,299. And in third place is Mr. Christopher Supsey's legal bills to defend Mr. Giordano at $25,042. All those bills total well over $100,000 insurance coverage. The total so far to defend Mr. Giordano that I have bills for is $82,705.86. And anybody can see the bills. I will be happy to give them my copies. But why did I bring this up? I brought it up because I've been accused of running up the legal bills, and I now have the paper to prove otherwise. Perhaps Mr. Giordano should have picked an experienced NJSIG attorney like I did, and there would still be insurance coverage to spare. If anyone has any questions, my phone number is 609-290-5125. I'll be happy to answer any questions in detail.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Polino, I'm so sorry, Mr. Polino would like you to think that we are, I just lost my spot, sorry. It was good too. Oh, God. Okay, that's not the case. Yeah, Mr. Polino would like you to think that we're irrational and selfish parents. That is not the case. And quite frankly, that is why the prosecutor and the judge dropped the charges. The board did not follow their own bylaws. It was not because they felt bad for us. But as you heard Mr. Polino's last rant last month, he does not believe that justice was served and continues to harass and threaten us with another lawsuit. Wait, let me correct and quote Mr. Polino. These are not threats. This is my promise. Your promises are just as harassing as that you calling them a threat. And finally, to the entire board, I feel like you are all weak and you fueled the fire at the last meeting. Not one of you said, okay, enough to Mr. Polino. He went on and on and on and is causing more division and more animosity. And I would ask Mr. Polino, you said the other day, last month, be a man, own up what you did so we can all move on. I'm asking you to do the same. Tonight, I'm asking you guys all to just take a step in the right direction towards us, towards the public, not the other way around, and stop threatening me, because I do feel harassed and I'm over it.
Allison Hollister, Forked River. First, I'd like to commend the Lacey teachers for a job well done over the summer. My daughter attended the enrichment program and had a wonderful time there, as well as the chorus, which she's an avid singer for the chorus. I'd also like to praise the teachers. I'm going to school to become a teacher, to finish my degree. I don't want to. With everything going on, I really don't want to. Why? I mean, I see what they go through day in and day out. The harassment that they get, the bullying they get from parents, certain parents, and it's not every parent, please don't take this the wrong way, but teachers have a lot on their plate. With all these new standards, some of them which may go against their morals, their judgment. Some of these teachers who've been teachers for over 20 years may have a religious background where they don't want to teach our children gender identity or sexual things because it goes against their religious background, their religious beliefs. And unfortunately, it's not your decision. And I understand that. It is coming from a higher up, but it is your decision to do the right thing. I just saw a thing from the NJEA that we're extremists. We're not extremists. Just like you, if you had a child and you felt strongly for your child and their beliefs and your beliefs, you would be up here saying the same thing to your board. Probably doing the same thing. The other thing I want you to think about is when we're trying to, if we adopt them, if we opt out, whatever we do, think about the children's mental health. We have a mental health pandemic right now for children. I have stated over and over again, you know how I feel about the whole bullying issue, the harassment, intimidation. You think it's hard now? Wait till little Johnny questions his teacher and another student about gender, or why did you mention this? And another student finds out. You think the words are gonna come out then? And they're worse now, they're gonna be even worse later on. We need to think about the children. We need to think about their mental health. And we really need to think about what it's doing to all of us as a society and how we act in front of our children. I wasn't here the last board meeting, I couldn't make it, but I saw it. I was appalled. I was appalled at the yelling and the screaming because I stand up here and I fight, not just for my kids, but for everybody else's kids against the bullying because it is a serious issue. And yet that's all I saw. That's all I saw the last meeting. It was appalling. We need to think about what this is doing to our children's mental health because as we all know, there's not enough mental health stability in the state of New Jersey. And certain parents, some parents don't have the means or the ways to get their children help. I just implore you to think, please think. Please just think about what it's going to do. The other issue that I have is this whole furry. I've heard from several kids stating that everybody's thinking about putting litter boxes in restrooms. That is a health hazard right there. Or kids defecating and urinating in bathroom floors because they think they are an animal. We need to think about not just certain kids, not just everybody, not just certain groups of people. We need to think about the children as a whole. Thank you.
Forgive me, I just had a neighbor.
Take your time.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Donna, and I'm from Frocket River. I just wanted to say, I'm a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 9. I'm a God-loving woman. I'd like to think of myself that way. I've found that there's a lot of division and that God wants us to be united. And He wants us to do the right thing for our children, for the families. And my children have pulled their kids out of school, public schools, because of what's going on. None of your parents of the board members would ever allow the things that are going on in our schools to ever happen while you were in school. We feel the same way right now. We are not going to stand by and let this happen. This is against what God's principles were for our nation. This nation was based on Judeo-Christian values. What is in this curriculum is not that. I pray for all of you. I pray for you to look up in the sky and pray to God and ask Him, what should I do as a board member? Not based on what the Department of Education and everything else down the line, because it's wrong. We know right from wrong. We've been taught it. That's why we're frustrated, because what's happening is wrong. And we count on you to make the right decisions based on God's value, because God is being taken out of the schools, and it cannot be taken out of the schools, our town, our state, our nation, and the world. We cannot live without Him. And if you think you can, you're going to be in for some judgment. So I ask you to go deep down into your heart, mind, and soul. I pray that your ears are open and your hearts are open and your souls are open to do the right thing for these children and our community. Other Board of Eds have. They've done it. We've seen it. It's been in the paper. We know it can be done. Go to God and let Him help you make the right decision for our children. Thank you.
Richard Bidnick again. I am very concerned, like I was listening to the parents and the comments that they're making about the health education issues that are being brought up. I spoke about this before. My main concern, and I'm speaking to the parents now and the community, is that this board did not do the right thing during the masking issue. We fought. I was one of the big speakers who fought against it, along with a lot of other people that are here tonight. They did not do the right thing. They caved for money. They took money from the state to mask your children. Now, why would we think, honestly, that they are going to do the right thing with this health education situation? I want to know why the superintendent is even considering it. She could have quelched this right at the beginning. She knew how many of us felt about it. And she allowed this to go on. They spent this entire summer working on this. It's ludicrous. I think it's ridiculous. As a taxpayer, I'm ashamed. And I'm also a gay person. I understand the situations that are at hand, but I don't believe at the ages that they're being taught this stuff that it is necessary. I got through school perfectly fine without having any of this taught to me in school. When you're old enough and you're 18 and you become an adult, you can make decisions that affect your life by what you want to do. We do not need the school to be indoctrinating our children, okay? And quite frankly, the taxpayers really have had enough. This board has been disrespectful to me, members of this public, when they have spoken. They've treated us with disrespect and disdain. We are paying the money that supports this school, that makes it function. They should be listening to us, not being dictated by them, telling us what they're going to do for your children, what they're going to teach your children. This is not appropriate. So, I want to know, and I want answers. I want to know why the superintendent went forward with this, because we don't want it. And I don't see people coming up here and screaming, yes, we should have this, it's wonderful. I haven't heard one person during this whole process say this is what we should do. So I'm hoping that when this comes up, that this will be all seen as a waste of time, and the board will finally listen for once and do the right thing and completely scrap this. I don't even want this in our education program. It shouldn't be an opt-in or an opt-out. We don't need it, okay? So we will have a fight on our hands, I'm going to tell you. If this continues and this board makes the decision to move forward with this, we, the public, will begin to move forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? You know, just, if you
You
can
can
do
say
it
it
there.
there.
Yes, say it right there. Don't get up.
The comment I have, my granddaughter is one of the students that live in Lacey and is bused to Manahawkin to Lighthouse Christian Academy. And we were notified that the busing will be canceled as of September for any student who was bused outside of Lacey. And I find that to be absurd also, since we are paying taxes living in the city, that this is stopped. Now, they did say there was going to be 2 checks that were going to be issued, $500 apiece. We haven't had any word about how that was going to be distributed. It just said 2 checks throughout the year to cover the expense of busing outside. But the position it's put grandparents and parents in to have to drive their children out to and from school is really not acceptable. And I didn't know if this was just for the 1 year, and how did you come about this? And what can be done to turn this around the following year? 1 year is to me is even unacceptable, because now I have to drive to and from when we had busing. I don't understand as taxpayers, and we are paying lots of taxes, why our busing was canceled. And I would really like you to really look into that and reconsider that, and send out another notice how you plan on sending out the checks. 2 $500 checks, we were told, $1,000 a student, which nowadays with these gas prices, what's that, two weeks? I mean, that's nothing, really. So I would ask the board to reconsider this decision. I don't know how it was made, why it was made. I'm sure it was over money, but I mean, in the scheme of things, I don't know if there's that much of a savings, but please look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We can address that. She's doing her comments. All right, anybody else? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Bell. I live in Forked River, Lejeune Avenue. And first, I'd like to apologize to the taxpayers, I've lived here 22 years, and this is my first meeting. That's pathetic. Please say you're forgiven, not welcome. And I was kind of brought aware of this, just some of my history. I've been here 22 years. I raised 3 boys. They're 24, 22, and 19. Not one of them stepped foot in Lacey Township schools. So on my behalf, I appreciate the $500 twice a year. We did. Drove our kids to school and picked them up. It's a burden, but in my case, well worth it. You say, well, why didn't you put your kids in the public school? I'm also a Baptist pastor. That'll narrow anybody's opinion. But the science classes teach that we evolved. That somewhere back millions of years ago, there was this green ooze that burped something out, and then eventually we came. Some of the behavior that goes on here, I'd start to believe it. But the reality is, I believe that God, in 6 literal 24-hour days, spoke into existence all that we know to be creation. The Bible says this, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. I spend a lot of time out. I deliver sheds. And so I spend a lot of time just looking at creation. And it's amazing to me how much God every day just writes his signature right across creation. And we come to an institution like this that's supposed to educate our children, and he's pushed out. And our children have been taught. My dad just passed away in January. He was 73 years old. He told me that when he was in high school, they began to teach evolution. He said, I knew it wasn't right, but there was nothing he could do about it. He graduated a long, long time ago, and they were pushing this stuff. And now we're at a place where we're putting litter boxes. I grew up on a dairy farm too, just so you know. We didn't even allow cats and dogs in our house. I just want to be clear on that. Litter stayed outside. And it wasn't, if I'd have told my dad, listen, I think we need to put a litter box in the house because I feel like I'm a furry, my 3 children would not have been born because I would not be. The reality is, we have gone so far. There's 2 entities at work in this world. One is God, the other's the devil. You have a choice to make. If you don't purposely choose God, then you by default choose the devil. There's no other options. There's no middle ground. There's no other alternative. It's either by choice we choose we're going to do what God wants, or by default you're led by the devil. I don't think anybody sitting here is out to be evil. As a pastor, I know how hard it is to please people. So, Mr. Polino, I saw a video of your outburst. Part of me felt bad for you because I understand when you're trying to please people, it gets frustrating. And there's been times I wanted to cut loose, but I try not to. But I totally understood. I'm not saying I agree with what you said, but I do understand where you're coming from. But I would just implore the board. It's not a big choice. It's just God or the devil. The reason I didn't put my kids in the school is because I wanted them to choose God. I have 2 that are married. One has a little boy. Those 2 are youth pastors. They chose God. I have another one. He wants to be a Lacey Township police officer. I don't know if I want him involved. But I'm glad there's a good kid that wants to get involved. Again, I apologize for the 22 years. But I'll be here next month.
Tiffany Arevalo, Lenoka Harbor. I was going to hold my comments until the listen and learn, but hearing all of this tonight, I just want to add what Jessica was saying about the vocabulary learning for up to fifth grade, 8-year-olds. How can these kids be taught this when they're still trying to figure out themselves? You're teaching gender expression and sexual orientation when they're still trying to figure out who they are. This is going to confuse them. Most, if not all of you, sat here in June and said you were against this curriculum. So I hope when this comes to you for a vote, you stand by your word and don't approve it. One other thing I wanted to mention, everyone keeps talking about the children, and yes, I do have kids in this district, and I am very concerned about this. But what about the teachers? Are they prepared to teach our children this? Are they prepared to explain things to our children? Are they prepared to answer questions that these children are going to have? I fear for this, because what are they going to answer these children with? This is very concerning. I think everyone needs to take a step back and please just listen to the parents this time. Please keep this out of our schools. Please opt out, not only for the children, but for the parents, for the staff that have to teach this. I don't know how someone can get up in front of a classroom of 10-year-olds, let's say, and teach about anal sex. What kind of questions do you think these children are going to have that these teachers are going to have to answer? Do you want your staff to deal with that? There could be a lot of repercussions from that. I'm very concerned, and I will be at the listen and learn. I do look forward to that, but please, I'm begging you as a parent, please do not vote this in.
Anyone else? Yeah, come on.
Melody Pryor, Lacey Township again. I just wanted to say tonight, more on a positive note towards everybody. I know it's a very stressful time for everybody, especially on the board, for the parents, for the teachers, for all of us. And I'm really hoping that all of us can find a way to work together and come to make this work together. We can say, you know what? Like Regina just said to me, take it home to mom and dad, let them answer it. You know, things like that you should stay at home or be educated at home. And hopefully all of us can just be on a positive note, work together, and just make this township the township that I was proud to live in at one time. So that's all I had to say. And thank you for what you do. And hopefully everything can work out and everything can come together and there could be a happy medium here somewhere. That's really what I hope for. So thank you for your time, everybody, tonight and every night.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you all for your comments. So I'm going to shoot over to Dr. Pereira. Do you want to follow up on anything with that? You're good? Okay. Did you want to address the busing thing real quick? Because we don't want to have her just reach out to you that way.
I'll research it and I'll.
Yeah.
I'll research it and get back.
Okay. So, ma'am, in response to your question about the busing and the checks and stuff, if we can get your information, and the business administrator will reach out to you, okay, directly to answer your questions, and because you're new to all that and the busing and why nots and everything, so she'll be more than happy to answer that for you, okay? So if you want to jot down a number, if you're not going to stay for the whole meeting, just drop it here with us to the business administrator and your name, and she'll get back to you. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Is that for all schools out of the district, or there are some, but?
No, it's for some, and if I'm not mistaken, it's based on the total number of students going to a school and the cost of the route and stuff like that. We're not obligated to transport, except for like the county programs and stuff like that, like mates and stuff like that. So the Christian schools or the non-public schools, it's based on, I believe, costs, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So if we don't have.
And we have to be able to get the routes.
Yeah, so it's a matter of if we can cover the route and if we have enough people for making it a cost-effective route. And that's probably what happened, ma'am, with the Christian Academy. Yeah, that's it. Okay? Okay, so you have nothing to add with that? Okay, thank you. So let's go to board committee reports. So I'm going to start, sorry. You want to do finance?
Sure.
Thank you, go ahead.
We had a finance meeting on Tuesday, August 9th. The first topic of conversation was the wrestling room. The two architects came together with the finance committee last month, and we were trying to figure out if the room was a new construction or if it was an additional. So Mr. Ted Hopkins is our architect. So he called the State Department of Community Affairs. The representative concurred with Mr. Hopkins in regards to the need that it would have to have a total HVAC in order for the wrestling room to get up to code. The wrestling room is approximately $500,000, $600,000. Obviously, we don't have the money for it right now. And we do have a priority list in the district, and the wrestling room is not at the top of the priorities right now. So unless a grant comes through, unless the wrestling team does heavy-duty fundraising, it's not a viable option right now to redo an entire room since there already is a wrestling room in the school. We talked about the football field. The board and the community was interested in having other sports teams use the football field for senior night, for soccer, senior night for field hockey, so other athletes could use the football field since we do have lights. So we are told by Dr. Pereira and Mrs. Sylvia that there will be games scheduled. So we're hoping by next week that we will know the dates that the field hockey or whatever sports are in season. So we're hoping to get the dates next month. We really want other athletes to be able to use the lights. We discussed that the second floor of the high school, the HVAC unit caught fire. It goes to the insurance, but we're getting that fixed right now. We talked about LEAD. LEAD is Law Enforcement Against Drugs. We had the program 2 years ago, and we're working with the police station right now so we can fund it again. It's a program for 7th graders, and it's part of the drug awareness program. So we're going to meet with the town council again next week so we can get that program up and running in September. We talked about redistricting. Dr. Pereira has a redistricting committee going with staff members, board members, and they're hoping to redistrict. And I'm sure, Ms. Claus, are you talking about this in your report?
No.
No, okay. So it's they're trying to bring different classes together in the district and hopefully save the district money. They have to look at the busing problems. They have to look at bus routes. There's so much to look at, but the community would be made well aware of it in advance. We talked about the health increase, that health insurance is going up. Dr. Pereira met with Senator Connors today to try to get him on our side, and there will be a resolution that we're passing tonight to appeal that these health insurance benefits can't keep going up. We talked about the van purchase for the food services. We needed a new van with refrigeration, so we did purchase that. We talked about cellular connection, how we lose calls at the middle school, and we felt that the district should go further with the assessment at the middle school to see why we're losing so much in the areas of technology. The negotiations committee is also the finance committee. We did settle the contract with the union. We settled a 3-year contract. Right now, we're waiting to agree on salary guides. So the union has presented us a salary guide. The board asked them to work on it a little bit more, and hopefully by next month, we will be able to ratify. So that's really good news after 17 months of negotiations. The 1-year contract that we settled with the union, the retro pay will be coming out hopefully Tuesday, if not within the following week. But retro pay is being worked on right now for that 1-year contract. And that's about it. Board members, do you have any questions about any of the finance or facilities items?
If I could add, we talk about drug awareness in Lacey a lot. And many years ago, I introduced Dr. Pereira to Chris Herron. For those of you who may not know who Chris Herron is, an ex-basketball player who fell in love with drugs. I'll give you a quick story about Chris Herron. He once was so wanting to get high while playing for the Boston Celtics. He got off the layup line, walked outside, and waited for his pusher to come so he could get his oxy, and then walk back onto the basketball court and play basketball that night. The story, if you watch it, it's in ESPN 30 for 30. I think Chris Herron is a gentleman that we need to bring to Lacey, and he will fill up Dow High School. And I know we don't have the money to afford his fee, but I believe, and I'm certain, and I'll even guarantee it, that if we put it out there that Chris Herron is coming to speak to our children, and we charge at the door like Tom's River did, like St. Rose did, like some other schools did, we will pack the house, and the kids will finally get a real message about someone they can relate to, who tells a story unashamed, and tells a story how he almost lost his children, his life, and his career, and has turned it around and is doing some great things right now. So if we can look into that once again and really take a hand at what we can do with drug awareness, I think this is not the cure-all, but I think for once we'll bring someone in who can adapt with the young kid, because he talks like a young guy still.
Right.
And I think that'll work.
Right.
So just wanted
And
to
Mr.
share.
Armato, I'm part of the task force in town, so we have been looking into him.
Okay.
To have the task force and the municipal alliance
Chris and I go
bring
back
him in.
a long way, so if you can't get through to him, please let me know, and I'll make sure he takes your call.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Claus?
Yeah, I have a question, not really a question, but, so it's about the wrestling room. So since we cannot afford to help them, I know the pole barn has been kind of tossed around a little bit. So if you can add that to next month, just to see if we can get some information from our architect of what is needed for them for fundraising if they're interested in doing this pole barn.
Right. We can try, every time we use Mr. Hopkins, it costs us quite a lot of money for him to do research, so maybe we can do it internally.
That's fine, whatever, yeah.
Mr. Zielinski or someone like that
I'll do it
to
for
get
free.
information.
Yeah, so really what we need, well, we need to see if they're even interested in doing a pole barn first. But if we have the space outside, and then just, we need to know what the requirements would be. Do they need a bathroom, or can they have a porta potty? Things like that, where they can start their fundraising. I know they're already on their way, but it would be helpful for them so they don't run in a circle. So if we can get some solid answers on really what they need to move forward, if they're interested in a pole barn, and we accept, that we can agree on some space for them to move forward with this. 'Cause
Okay,
it
I'll
seems
put
like
it on
we're
the
at a dead
agenda.
end.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Ms. McAvoy, I have a question
Yes.
regarding the van for food services.
Yes.
I was going through the agenda yesterday, reviewing everything. Can you fill me in a little bit on that? Is that refrigerated now? I see that it had interior spray-in cargo liner. Is that for transporting food from back and forth to the schools?
Yeah.
Yes, it has a refrigerator in it.
There's a refrigerator built into it?
No, there's not.
There's not.
No.
Can I, may I, Mrs. McAvoy?
You may.
And to add on to the cost of the van, the refrigeration will be extra. However, the funds are coming from funds that were raised over the past year in food service, when the government paid for every
Awesome.
student to have lunch And so we ended up with excess money that can only be spent on food service products. And we have an old van that's rotting away, literally can't put a refrigerator in the floor because it would go through the floor. And so this is actually federal money that was sent to us or paid to us for meals that weren't eaten, but can only be used for food service, for budget items, okay?
Thank you.
So this isn't taxpayer money. Just
And
when
it
you
had
look
to
at
get
that.
used, it had to get used this
Yeah,
year.
right, and it has
Yes.
to get used this year. But I just wanted to add that.
Thank you,
know,
Mr.
that,
Scanlon.
People know where the money's coming from.
Thank you.
Board have any other questions for finance? Okay. Ms. Buck?
Yep.
So you're going to do policy?
Policy, yep.
Yeah, policy.
So we had our meeting. It was myself, Mr. Peters, Linda Downing, and Dr. Pereira attended. We started out with discussions first. We talked about the safety net. The committee reviewed the criteria and developed the use for the safety net. Dr. Pereira informed the committee that the criteria will be both in the high school and the middle school and will be in the handbooks and will be shared with the parents and students in a timely manner for the new school year. So something that we changed in policy last month, we lowered the grade to a 55 from a 60, and now we're requiring students and families to meet with teachers, counselors, and administrators, and we did not do that before. We also felt the students in the first marking period to qualify for the safety net, they would have to attend 2 after-school enrichment tutoring sessions, and if they used it for the second marking period, they would have to attend at least 4 after-school enrichment tutoring sessions, and we would recommend that they would participate in a club activity or sport to hopefully decrease absences, which are kind of frequent with the use of this grading policy. So we're hoping that limits the use of the grading policy. The committee also had a discussion on electronic devices that relates to policy 3321, and we felt that no changes needed to be made to this policy. That was, okay, then we also talked about policy and regulation 7510, school use of facilities. This is something that we're going to be working on next month. We discussed quite a bit of information, so we'll give you some more information next month to follow. We also discussed policy 7440, school district security. Dr. Pereira informed the committee that the policy 7440 may need a slight revision in regard to language related to staff signing in and out of buildings as a security measure. So more coming forward next month on that. We're going to vote on some policies tonight. We're starting with policy 0143, high school representative to the school board and Board of Education. This was signed into law January 18th, 2022. The new law requires that school districts with any grades 9 through 12 include a minimum of 1 student selected by the student body to serve as a non-voting student representative on the Board of Education, which we already do. Next, we talked about policy 2461, special education receiving schools. We're abolishing that policy because we are not a receiving school. We next talked about policy 3216 and also policy 4216, dress code and grooming for staff and support staff. This policy has been updated to reflect best practices for teaching staff members. Policy 4216, dress code and grooming, has been developed to address the grooming for support staff. Dr. Pereira informed the committee that these policies were addressed with the dress code committee and used the guideline to revise the current staff dress and their expectations. We also talked about policy 5511, dress and grooming for students. Dr. Pereira led the discussion with no revisions to the policy. The same dress code committee referenced above K through 12 dress code document for students. These new guidelines will be included in all student handbooks after the board has the opportunity to review them. And these dress codes will be followed for staff and students who ever ask the question. We had one more policy that we're voting on tonight, policy 5517, school district issued student identification cards. This new statute requires Board of Education that any of the grades 7 through 12 that issues a student identification card shall print on the back of the identification card the telephone number for the New Jersey Suicide Prevention hotline, and contact information for the crisis line. So that's coming in September. No co-curricular activities to discuss. Safety and security, Dr. Pereira spoke about the reunification summer training, and that's August 23rd and 24th. And we also had a board retreat, so we just had a reminder, and that was August 15th, and it went well. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for policy?
I have one question regarding policy 2416.01. It was for a second read. I'm sorry I missed it the last time it was discussed. Postnatal accommodations for students. Do we have a rampant high school pregnancy rate here?
We do not.
We don't. Does this cost us a lot of money to have postnatal accommodations for students?
Does not.
But we still have it?
We just have to have a location.
Okay.
That's it.
So it's not a whole setup
No.
or anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. So I'm going to go read the curriculum because Mrs. Downing is going to be heading out of town or has already left town to go on her vacation. So the curriculum committee met twice, extensive hours on the 11th and the 16th. It was Mrs. Downing, Mrs. McAvoy, myself, Dr. Pereira, Mr. Zielinski. So there was a lengthy agenda. So Mr. Zielinski, he led the discussion on all this stuff because he is really in charge of the curriculum stuff. So he provided members of the committee with copies of the following handbooks and courses of study for the board to review and to submit for all the schools, elementary schools and middle school and high school and so forth. He also led a discussion expanding the use of IXL learning for 22-23 school year. This program has been used for academic enrichment and personalized learning for grades 7 and 8, and we will expand on its use for grades 5 and 6 in the upcoming school year. IXL learning replaces Moby Max in grades 5 and 6. And this IXL provides real-time analytics that allows teachers to make instructional decisions to support the students in their unique learning needs. It was heavily used in grade 7, 8, and the 2021-22 school year. He also led a discussion about the use of Moby Max, which acts as an intervention for grades K through 4. And this program, he told us, is totally funded by Title I. He led a discussion about the NWEA program. This is going to replace our DRA, Developmental Reading Assessment. This new program will allow teachers to assess reading level for the students. The assessment will be recorded and scored immediately. This will allow students and their families to compare the results electronically and will serve as a time saving for the classroom teachers who will be able to administer the assessment to the whole class at the same time and to receive immediate feedback as to the reading readiness of our students. So when I gathered from the conversation, Moby Max, the DRA was, it didn't get back quick enough with the results of the testing. He led a discussion about the purchase of one-year license for Studies Weekly, which will serve as an online and printed source for social studies K through 4. It's a one-year license. He spoke about conversations, and I know the question was asked on that. It's not an ELA thing. It's more of a character building program. This serves as a springboard for conversations that will happen during the morning meetings in grades 5 and 6. This topic focuses on relation with technology and will include things like the attention distractions, somebody's watching me type of thing, hacking, brain hacking. So it's a title-funded thing for the 22-23 school year. And again, it builds character relations as a springboard in the morning. The nice thing about this program is whatever the children see in the video and stuff, a QR card is going to go home with the child, and the parents could scan it, and they'll be able to watch all the videos. So it's nothing that the parents cannot see. So it's completely transparent. They see what the child sees. Mr. Zielinski led a discussion about Discovery Education, the amount of resources streaming content that it contains for our teachers. So Discovery Education was formerly United Streaming for grades K through 12. We've used it over 10 years. It has includes content, learning tools, resources across all subjects. This tool allows teachers to track progress and craft lessons related to curriculum. He led the discussion on Formative Loop. So Formative Loop is a program focused on increasing math fluency for students K through 5. Students complete skill practices that will allow teachers to identify gaps the students have in their math skills at an individual level throughout the course of the school year. He discussed purchasing a one-year renewal Savas ReadyGen program, the ELA program for kids K through 5. The elementary schools will begin the process for replacement of ReadyGen and will look to pilot different programs in the upcoming school year. Let's see, he discussed the purchase of textbooks and online resources for the new macroeconomics course. Currently, excuse me?
AP macro.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there it is, AP macro course at the high school. There's currently 25 students enrolled in this AP class. Mr. Zielinski informed the committee that there's many educational organizations in the state have opposed the administration of the Start Strong assessment in 22-23 school year. The organizations feel that there is already enough local and state testing to evaluate our students without the Strong Start assessments. As a joint letter to the acting commissioner, the letter was written regarding concerns for the Strong Start program in fall of 22. We talked about the submission of district professional development plan for review, district monitoring plan for review, and he submitted the class counts for review in grades K through 6. I just want to add that we, as a board, got the list of the number of students in all our schools and our grade levels. The committee, and we shared with the rest of the board that there is a concern with some of a couple of our grade levels where there's a lot of students, and we're speaking with Dr. Pereira to rectify that and hopefully get more teachers in to break up those classrooms and then get more help on that level, because we don't want an exorbitant amount of children in the classroom. So the board is aware of the class sizes, and we're working on that to expand on some type of help for these children. And with that too, with help in the classroom, I just had the discussion today with Dr. Pereira, trying to reinstitute some of the paras back in our kindergarten program. So we're hoping that can get on board in September. You know, we're looking to get that back in. Not all of them, but we're looking to get some in the schools, each school, to get some help for our kindergarten teachers. Special education, Mr. Zielinski shared and led discussion on work-based learning program for the high schools, children, young adults, really, 18 to 21 years old. Teachers, Mr. Pfister and Mrs. Bannon, will utilize a flyer to solicit businesses that are able to host our special education children between 18 and 20 years old to participate in work-based learning environments. Really excited about that. We do have a couple businesses in town that do that now. We really want to expand that and get our young adults in the public and starting to get their hands dirty, so to speak, in learning real life jobs. And we're excited about that getting underway. And I thank Mr. Bond and his crew for pushing that. Technology, Mr. Zielinski submitted a technology handbook for review. And of course, we spoke about the comprehensive physical education. It was opened up to the public. The curriculum, the board has it. I know I've been going through it. And the forum is Thursday at 6 o'clock, yes?
5:30.
5:30,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in the media center at the high school.
Yes.
And we ask that people come and give their comments and opinions, and we strongly suggest that. And that's it. Does the board have any questions for curriculum?
Can I ask for one clarification?
I will try to give to you.
You mentioned that we were adding IXL and removing MobiMax, but is that what I heard?
Yes,
At grade level.
At grade level. At the
Oh,
grade
okay.
level.
For a grade
Fair enough.
level.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Okay, I lost my agenda. Oh. You have nothing else, right? Because I kind of
I do
jumped. All right. Okay, so let's go with board comments.
I have Spotlight I can read.
Oh, okay, yes.
All right,
That's
I have
Go
two,
ahead.
actually.
Go ahead. I mean, you
Okay.
have two?
I have two.
Go ahead.
All right, I have two spotlights of Lacey graduates. The first one is Brendan Walsh. Lieutenant Brendan Walsh graduated Lacey High School in 2016 and is a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, class of 2020, where he earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Military Strategy Studies. Lieutenant Walsh also earned a coveted pilot training slot. First, he served at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State as he awaited pilot training. Step one was to complete initial flight training over several weeks in Pueblo, Colorado. Soon after that, he found himself at Vance Air Force Base in Oklahoma in an undergraduate pilot training. This training consisted of 12 months of long hours of academic classwork, simulator training, cross-country flights, formation flying, solos, and check rides, just to name a few. But he persevered and accomplished his childhood dreams to becoming a pilot in the Air Force. On May 26, Lieutenant Walsh graduated and received his wings as an aviator. He has continued his training at Vance Air Force Base in a T-1 Jayhawk and will be finishing up his phase early next month, where he'll select the airframe he wants to fly as a carrier pilot. His current goal is to fly the C-7 Globemaster. There will be more flight training in his airframe of choice before he will finally land in his first duty station. In all, Lieutenant Walsh achieved his dream from 8th grade when the reports of his first flight assignment. It will have taken him 12 years of dedication and hard work, intense focus, and persevering through challenges to achieve it. His family and friends are very proud of him, and he wants to thank all of those Lacey Township schools who helped him along the way, especially his swim coach, Mr. Brian Keelan, and John Kuzan with the STEM program, who was and continues to be a very important mentor. The next graduate is Connor Crowell. Connor Crowell was a graduate of Lacey Township High School in 2015 and now lives in Nashville, Tennessee. When Connor was in high school, he played baseball and swam under Coach Brian Keelan again for all 4 years. He lettered in both his senior year. During his high school years, he umped for Lacey Little League, which is where his passion began. After college, Connor attended the minor league ump training in 2019 and 2020. He worked in Northwoods League in 2019 and the Appalachian League last year, where he officiated the All-Star Game, which was nationally broadcasted. Connor also worked at the NCAA Division I baseball in the Big South Conference. He is currently working in the minor leagues as a rookie ball classification in Florida Complex League. Connor is currently engaged to his fiancee Katie and is getting married in November. In his spare time, he enjoys playing golf, going to the gym, as well as helping other umpires improve their craft. He would like to thank all of his teachers and coaches that he had growing up that have encouraged him to always pursue his dreams. Thanks to them, he's doing just that and doing what he loves for a living.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Yep.
Good stuff. Okay, we're going to start with board comments. So, Ms. Claus, I'll start down your end.
Okay. The only thing I'd like to say is we had our board retreat on Monday, and I thought it was very successful. We all came together and came up with 4, I think, great measurable goals that we'll be sharing soon. We still have our board goals to work on, and that, soon, I guess next month, we're going to finish that up. But it was very productive, and I'm looking forward to setting those goals. And we also are going to be meeting quarterly in public to show our progress towards those end goals, which is nice. And that's it. That's all I have to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Peters.
Did you call me next?
Sure.
Thank you. Did you say me? I didn't.
Yes, I did.
When your shop teacher years go bad. Took a view of the schools last week, drove around on my own and looked at the schools as far as opening up. The guys are doing an awesome job, and girls doing an awesome job getting the schools ready for our opening. And we're doing our board drive-through of all the buildings, I believe, in 2 weeks or a week and a half. We all go. We get a tour of all the schools, look at the interior of the schools, also to check them out. So kudos for all the custodians and all the grounds people. Thank you for what you do. Mr. Bidnick. heard a lot of negative tonight. You can smirk, that's fine, that's fine. As long as you're looking at me making eye contact, that's good. Been on this board for 5 years now, and a lot of things you say are not true, unfortunately. It's your own personal feelings, and that's fine, you're entitled to them. But when you come up here and say, we don't care, and we don't this, and we don't that, I've never, and I know what your reply is gonna be because it's always the same thing. Why don't you run for the board? Because my voice is stronger at that microphone than what it is being up here. Well, you're wrong. You have all these ideas, all these suggestions, all these recommendations to do it, but you don't have enough guts to get out there, put your name on a sign, be away from your family 3 nights a week, get multiple text messages, multiple phone calls, multiple emails to answer all week, which is fine. That's why I'm here. I have a passion for kids. That's why these board members are here. We have a passion for kids and a passion for what's right and what we're working for. But to sit there and listen, you get up every week, every month, meeting by meeting, you should resign, you should this, and you have to do that. We're not doing it. We're doing what we think is best for this district, and I'm happy to be part of this group that we're with. We had a meeting last week with a board retreat, which was absolutely awesome. We said amongst ourselves, where were you? And I nicknamed you the pot stirrer, because whenever there was something coming up, that's the only time you come out. Whether it was the mask, or whether it's the CRT training, or whatever it is. That's all I have to say, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Amato, all the way down there.
Thank you. So there's a lot to say tonight, I apologize, but I'll start with this. I'm not gonna apologize for any person that's a resident of this town for supporting me. I don't care if it's Richard, I don't care if it's that guy in the back, and I don't care if it's that woman in the corner. If they supported me, they support me because they believe something that I stand for. It's not a part of my entourage. It's not someone who backs me because, well, maybe they do back me because I feel some way. But that should not be the case on why I am or am not on a board committee, why I am or I am not well received by my board members. I work really hard to become well received by these people on this board with me. And you were the first one to lend an olive branch. But I'm not gonna apologize for anyone in this room who supports me. No way. I worked too hard to get them to trust me and go to last November and flip that switch for Salvatore Amato because I wanted this seat. I ran for this seat 3 times. So I'm not apologizing for anyone who supports me, nor will I ever. This is not about the haves and the have-nots. Okay? This is about every resident in Lacey Township, regardless of race, color, creed, religious beliefs, and so on and so on and so on. If they want to support Sal Amato, I'm going to thank them. If they want to kick Sal Amato, and you know what? I'm going to find out why. Okay? So I'm not going to apologize for that. There should be no reason why that's the reason why I am or am not well received on this board. That's just unprofessional. A couple days ago, I reached out to a couple of my fellow board members to discuss our board president's behavior last month. And I couldn't get in touch with anyone. So the board president called me a couple weeks ago, and we discussed some updates that were going on in the district. And I come to the belief that no organization can rise above its leadership. As I said a couple of weeks back, our board president called me to provide me with updates. As he took me through the updates, he had mentioned that he heard I wanted to talk to my fellow board members about his behavior last month. However, I said, since you're on the phone, I could tell you personally. So very calmly, I might add, I said, you can't get irate like that in front of the public. You can't. You gotta do better. They have every right to tell us we're doing good, doing bad. They can attack us any way they want. And knowing that he's a soccer guy, I said, imagine if you missed the game-winning kick and the fans are booing you. I said, would you want to argue with every fan because you missed the kick? We got to accept our responsibilities, right? To which he responded, I'd be making a lot more money. So I knew this was going nowhere. However, Mr. Paolino could not contain himself. And this is why I'm sharing this. He began to go on a tirade about my wife, Cheryl Amato, who is a Board of Education candidate and a strong advocate for our children's rights. Okay, so it's not just my wife. It's a person who's out there in the public. No different would I have reacted if it was that woman right there, or Mr. Bidnick, or anybody in this room, whether they were for me or against me, okay? You see, Mr. Paolino can't stand my wife and other residents for having the courage to stand up to him and his ridiculous mandates during our fights for personal medical freedom and the ridiculous mask. He told me that I need to get my wife in check. I want to let that sink for a second. I had a man tell me I need to get my wife in check because she's an embarrassment to me and the board. That my wife needs to know her place. I'll let that sink in for a second. And she told me that my wife needs to know her place. She needs to stop being a troublemaker and selfish. To which I responded, be very careful as you're talking about my wife here. You have crossed the line, and I don't like it. I protect my family. And then I told him, and I want everybody to hear this, not just for my wife, but for everybody in this room. My wife is a free thinker, okay? Just like everyone in this room is a free thinker. And she has never embarrassed me and or any of my family with anything she has ever said. As a family should, we support each other in my house, and we encourage all the members of our home to be free, well-informed thinkers. Mr. Paolino went on and on about all the bad people that come to the meetings and how he has a year to file charges against them. And you know what I did? I went, are you gonna run to the police again? Are you gonna file charges again? I was a little idiot too there for a minute. He continued to bash Cheryl, and I continued to ask him to stop talking about Cheryl. This is where I got really pissed. He said to me, what are you gonna do about it? Like a 12-year-old kid who wanted to meet me after school. Okay? Calling me out to a fight 25 years ago, I probably would have met him. But now today, as head of a household, as a member of the Lacey Township Board of Education, it's not the example I will set for the children of our district. I'm better than that. I'm better than him. He continued his tirade and finally hung up. The best decision he has ever made. I want to thank Kim Klaus, Linda Downing for meeting with me in person, listening, offering their feedback, and sharing their thoughts on Frank's behavior. I want to thank Skip for giving me a phone call, and he was very supportive against the tirade against the fellow board member's family. However, I want the public to know this isn't the day-to-day behavior of your Board of Ed, okay? If you trust me, you gotta take my word for this. This isn't the day-to-day behavior of the Board of Ed, okay? This is the behavior of one man and not the entire board. We have not become best of friends, I can tell you that, but we've come a long way at working together and coming to a resolution together and finding common ground. But we do have a mutual respect for the honor that has been bestowed upon us as your elected members of the Board of Ed. We will get better, I promise you that. Like I've always promised you that I would fight, I will continue to fight. With 3 seats up for grabs and 5 candidates running, we are assured at least one new face represents you and your children in January. In January, the board will nominate and vote for new board leadership. That too is something we can look forward to. This Board of Ed has had a few hiccups, but with new members and new leadership, the board is primed to be the board you expect it to be. Fiscally sound, educationally focused, and revenue-minded, with eyes forward to providing the best public education your children can get. And that's my word. Thank you.
Okay, so, Mrs. McAvoy.
Mr. Amato, I sat down and met with you also.
Yeah,
You forgot me. You said everyone but me.
I did miss with Mrs. McAvoy, and
Okay.
I didn't want to mention the fact, though, that you dismissed me when I told you about Frank's behavior.
I said I wasn't going to vote to,
Neither
yeah,
here nor
but
there.
I
But I
did
did forget.
come in and
I want to
sit with
thank you,
you.
Mr. 22 years, Pastor, for bringing that name, that beautiful name, into this room and sharing it with us over and over and over again, because God is king. He's definitely somebody that we've forgotten a long time. And Donna, thank you for your kind words again. You're also a matriarch around this neighborhood, and we love you very much. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to attending the Lou Versillo naming next Friday. I think it's a wonderful thing the district's doing. It's a great honor, and it puts positivity on the district. The board retreat, I'll reiterate, it was wonderful. The board came together. We all filled out a questionnaire, how the board can work together better, and I feel like we came together, which was very nice. And we all worked, 7 of us gave ideas for the superintendent goals. So we'll be presenting them next month. And like Mrs. Claus said, quarterly at these board meetings in public, we will be discussing the board goals and how far we are to achieve them by the end of the year. I reiterate to thank everyone who got the schools ready. The grounds look good, inside the buildings look good, and now that we settled the contract with the teachers, I think that the teachers are all going to come back more positive, more motivated, and very successful. Mrs. Hollister, are you still here? Yes, please continue to go to be a teacher. It's a wonderful profession. You get to make a difference, and it's really rewarding. So I encourage you to keep with it, and yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it. All right, that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scanlon.
I'd like to echo the comments made by a couple of our board members here. The board retreat, I think, was a very positive activity. We had gave an opportunity for all of us to talk in a more informal way, hear each other's ideas and listen, which is important that we do listen to each other. Concerning the major topic tonight, which I know is a really hot button issue, and I want to be very careful how I say it so it's not misunderstood. But when it comes to the new curriculum, I think one of the things that we really would be helpful to everybody, myself included, would be if we had the old curriculum and the new curriculum. I always like when they revise something and they put what's new in red, so that you see what the changes are and you see what's different, you see what's been added. And then we can look and we can really see what the differences are over something that was not controversial in past years and what's very controversial now, and see what we need to do to modify that so that we can take the controversy out of it, to get it down to community standards. And that would be my goal. That's where I am coming from on this, is that we had a curriculum. It was successful. I've talked to my children about it. There were probably things in there that some of us didn't realize were in there, but they weren't as extreme as they are now. And I mean, I like the one person who said, did you ask your teachers how they're going to feel about teaching it? I taught science. And when it came in 7th grade, when it came in life science to the human reproduction part, I more or less ended up teaching them that you listen to people who say no. And I know I took probably didn't take the bravest path, but I took the way that I thought would be the most important, is teaching them how to be respectful to each other. But anyway, that's beside the point. I just want you to know that I do understand the concerns, I understand the anger, but I think if we can break it down to look to see what really is new and really what might not be our standards, and we could maybe deal with it together. And in closing, if you don't mind, a little advertisement for the 5K race. Municipal Alliance 5K race is August 27th, a week from Saturday. And it's this is the year 2022, so it's the 22nd annual race. I won't say 22nd annual 5K because the first 2 years they listened to me and I said, it's got to be 5 miles. Nobody will come for 5K. And then we found out that everybody said, I thought it was only a 5K. Where'd that extra distance come? Anyway, we're up to our 22nd year, It's our major fundraiser. We gave a lot of scholarships out last year, and we'd like to be able to continue it. The merchants in town are big supporters, and if you'd like to, anybody wants to come out and be a course marshal, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Scala. Okay, it's my turn. Regina DeSenza. Regina, why did you give this to us?
You don't remember the discussion last year?
No, I don't. I know the poor captain, but I don't remember why you gave this to us.
Ed mentioned to name the field end to him because the real heroes are ours.
Oh, now I understand. Okay. I understand now. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
I have the picture because I did it in his grave there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I didn't know what that was about. I know you said something to him, but I didn't know what that was about. Okay, so I want to piggyback on some of the things the other board members said. Yes, I did attend the retreat. I liked it. We are going to continue it next month because we didn't have enough time. Our field rep, she had to go to attend another meeting at a school. So we're going to, we did get some goals set for the district. Now we need to set some board goals. So it was a good thing. And we all came together. It was nice. I also haven't been driving around schools like Mr. I Can't Sleep Peters late at night, but I noticed that there's some good work going on around the building, so it's looking good, getting ready for the school year, and I thank our outsourced staff, and we're going to see the inside, and I'm excited about that. I know everybody's been working feverishly on that. I want to thank our LTEA folks. I know we've been working, feverishly on contracts for the last 18 months. It got heated, we got really divided, but we settled one. We managed to come together and sit down. I thank them for, sitting with us. Everybody got reasonable, and we're coming to a good conclusion, and I thank them for sitting down at the table with us, and we kind of thwarted off going to more mediation and arbitration, which would have cost a lot of money, so we sat down and we worked a lot of things out, and I thank them for that. And to our staff and our teachers who are getting ready for the school year, I know you're working feverishly, our curriculum writers, and I thank you. Our BA and our superintendent, assistant superintendent, I stop in the board office quite often, and they're, pen and paper going all day long, and I thank them for their hard work. My fellow board members, thank you. I know that the committees they're long. 11 years ago, I don't remember, committee meetings in the summer or the spring going 4 or 5 hours, our meetings. So I thank them for their time and for putting all that in. A couple things I do want to correct. So, Mr. Bidnick, I know you say we don't listen. However, we are looking at a minimum of 15% increase in our health care this upcoming year in January. So our new BA and Dr. Pereira are starting to look elsewhere at maybe changing some things. Maybe we can get equal or better coverage than what we have for our staff at a cheaper price. So we are definitely starting to explore that. The last BA didn't, but I'm not going to put him down. But we're going to start looking at that. Well, it's really not a question time, but go ahead.
I want to know as a taxpayer, and I'm speaking on behalf of everybody here. I don't mind.
All right, folks, it's really not question time, but
I don't really mind, obviously, paying for the teacher themselves as they're actually working for the school district, but I really want to know why we are paying for a large part of the family members as a taxpayer. They don't bring anything to the table. I understand you offer that, but why don't they pay for it?
well, I can't really answer that because that's stuff I can't answer here. So again, that's for another discussion. But we are exploring other avenues, so we do listen. A couple things I do want to correct. Mrs. DeLuca, you have your opinions, I have mine. You could hate me. I really, it is what it is. I'm used to that. But one thing I will correct you on. I still work as a police officer. Okay, and whatever you think about what happened with the mass situation, you could have your opinion, I could have mine. It's over and done. Okay.
I appreciate that. I hope it is.
It's over and done.
Good.
And I'm going to just address Sal for a minute. Mrs. Amano, I don't hate you. I don't hate anybody. Okay, I may dislike what people do, all right? And I am a person who's embedded in following the law for almost 40 years now. And when people don't follow the law, I feel personally violated that, because this is why we're not a third world country. And this is what keeps us going in the direction that we're going. Okay, laws are, all right, folks, this is just, you don't, okay, please? So that's where I come from, okay? If it's my children, my family, listen, my wife and I agree about a lot of different things. And she doesn't agree with a lot of things I do, okay? But we have an understanding, all right? So I don't hate you, as your husband says, and I don't hate anybody here, all right? I just don't like when people don't follow rules and laws. And that's why we have them. That's what makes us a great country and not a third world country. Mr. Amato, I'm gonna address our conversation, and I'm gonna be quite honest with you, sir. I really don't know how that got out of control. And the only thing I did say to you about your wife is that I found her yelling at me in public, rude and disrespectful, and that's what I said to you.
I missed
Okay?
that one, you're right.
Right. So I said, that was my bone of contention with your wife, how she was rude and disrespectful during my time. Her and other folks from the audience were screaming out and not giving me my opportunity to talk when I certainly give them the opportunity to talk. And that's what I said. And where it went from there, it got ugly. Did I call you out for a fight? No, I didn't. You basically said to me, you're crossing the line. And I said, okay, what are you going to do about it? That's what I said to you. I said, come on out in the back schoolyard, we're going to beat each other up. It's ridiculous.
I didn't say you said that.
Okay, well, you said I was like egging you on to fight. I'm not egging you on to fight. But regardless, okay, we have our disagreements, and it is what it is. It's over. It's
hope
over.
so.
But I do want to say something. Is it over for you, Mrs. Pryor? Are you leaving us?
Yes, it is over.
Okay. So, listen, to you folks that came up about this curriculum, it's a hot topic. And there's stuff in there that members deem inappropriate, okay? I appreciate your comments. I really appreciate you coming to the forum, all right? I don't think anybody in this board has made up their mind completely of where we're going with this and what's gonna happen. But we are gonna take it under consideration, okay? There are things we have to consider. You know, I know you assimilated to the mask situation, but my concern is that if we just say no and don't bring in any of this curriculum, how's that going to affect our students in their future graduation? I'd hate to see our students come up and the state says, oh, by the way, you didn't do this, we're not certifying their graduation. That concerns me more than anything. I don't care about money. Our students leaving with a diploma, that concerns me more than anything. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. So I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate all your comments. Look forward to, I don't know if I'll be there Thursday night. I have a class I have to teach on the 25th, but I hope you can come out and provide comments to the administration and staff. With that, we're going to move on. All right, let me find all my stuff. Okay, item number 1, meeting minutes. Motion?
Motion, Peters.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes, thank you. 2, list of bills. Motion?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. 3 and 4, transfers, budget transfers. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
Scanlon? Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes, but I can do it same from 11000100565, please.
Thank you. Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. Item number 5. I just passed it. S1701 reporting. Motion?
Move.
Second.
Second, Peters.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. Items 6 through 19, financial stuff. Do we have something?
Yes, so we have an addition to item number 19, use of facilities. We are adding, under the Mill Pond location, Lacey Recreation, Lacey Lions Basketball, ID 6812 for the dates of 9/12, 9/14, 9/16, from 6 to 9 p.m. It's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and no fee.
Move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have one question.
Sir.
If I may. What is Discovery Education? Number 9, page 5.
I think that was with the...
That was with curriculum.
No.
It's an online streaming that the teachers can use.
It's a tool for teachers?
It is.
Is it a help tool or is it a curriculum tool? Is
It's
it-
curriculum.
Okay.
It's curricular. You could go on and look at it. It's, if you're teaching social studies and maps, you can go on and use Discovery Education to supplement it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
I'm sorry?
She called you to vote.
Oh,
Mr.
I'm going to abstain from Lacey Lions basketball, 6812, and yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes, thank you. 20 through 26, transportation and tuitions. Motion?
Move.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Item number 21,
Yes.
I'm happy to see that we have 44 students attending the Mates Academy. Number 1, and number 2, what is the share time? For 96,008, what is the share time?
I think that's with the VOTEC,
The what?
the
Vocational school?
vocational.
Yeah, but what's the
school.
shared time? What, I don't know
They
what it
do
is.
part here and they do part at VOTEC.
That's the term.
Oh, gotcha, so that's all the other vocational centers.
Right, right.
We're doing the shared time, where they're doing their math, English, and science here,
Correct.
and
So
going
they're
there for their,
there.
gotcha.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
You have to abstain
Oh, abstain.
to the out-of-district placement for regional day.
Oh, yes,
Number
abstain.
A24.
Yep.
Thank you. Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. He had an Ed moment. That's what that was. 27 through 28, policy and regulations. Motion?
Move.
I'll
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. 29 through 37. So 29 is going to be the resolution that, and folks in the public, if you have the agenda in front of you, on page 10, you'll see number 29 is a resolution. This is, we're sending out to our congressional folks, asking them for help in our stance against inflated healthcare costs. This is when today, Mrs. Dr. Pereira and Ms. Sylvia went to see Senator Connors. So 29 through 37, motion,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
discussion?
Yes, number 37, the fall athletic schedule. I didn't see any games for the seniors' nights at the football field, so is that going to be changed, Mr. Polino?
I'm sorry, say that again, the schedule?
The fall athletic schedule that we're approving.
Yes.
I looked at it and I don't see the games for the other teams that are going to be able to use the football field. So are we going to reapprove another schedule once they get scheduled, or are they just going to be added in?
They're just going to be added in, and I'm hoping within the next week or so, we'll get those from the athletic director, the games that they're going to be playing under the lights.
All right,
So-
I'm just making sure because we promised the community
Listen,
over
I
and
have something
over.
more than the promise today.
Yes.
Is this a one-game option?
I had a pinky promise today.
Okay, at least that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're going to add this on, but yes.
He's holding you to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am holding you to it, pinky promise. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. Number 38, the HIB. Motion.
Move it.
Second?
Second, I have a question.
Okay, questions?
I didn't think we had any HIBs this month.
This is to reaffirm last month's HIB.
Oh, that's
We
right.
do have no new HIBs this
Okay,
month.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes, thank you. B, donations on page 12.
Move.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Just a great big thank you for the donation. If you've gone out to the high school field and taken a look, it looks amazing. Debbie Sines did a great job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The field looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
I need to abstain due to conflict.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
Yes, and thank you very much.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes, and job well done.
Mr. Polino?
Yes, thank you. C, programs and curriculum, again on page 12. Motion.
Move.
Second,
Second.
discussion.
Yes, Mallory Krakowski, for $3,899. Is she staying overnight?
But that's, we're on
We're on
C.
C.
We're on C,
Oh,
not
I'm
D.
so sorry.
Teacher placement.
Yeah, we're on teacher placement right now.
Oh, no discussion on that.
Okay. Any discussion on C, page 12? Roll call.
Mr. Armato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. D, professional days and workshops. Motion?
Move.
Second.
Now, Mrs.
Yes, I have a question on Mallory Krakowski. She's going to nonviolent crisis intervention training in Atlantic City for $4,000. Are we paying for her for a hotel room, or that
Private
just
jet.
seems like a lot of money? And, Mrs. Sylvia, can we start getting this at, if it's something over a couple $100 for trainings, can we start getting this at the finance meeting so we can see why we're spending $4,000?
Yes. Absolutely.
Can I explain?
Yes.
That CPI, that nonviolent construction is CPI. That's for nonviolent crisis intervention. I'm also certified in that for restraining students properly. It's a program that you go to for restraining students in the proper way, and you get a certification. If she's going through the classes she's going through, which is a 3-day course,
Right.
she's not going to be certified. She's going to be an instructor to come back to save the district money. Am I correct?
Correct.
She's coming to be an instructor to save the district money, because if we send everybody down there, it'd be
Right.
$4,000, but we can get her certified as an instructor. Like I used to be in the district here. Once you get certified, I can teach a whole entire class of 20
Right.
people.
I
At no
understand,
cost.
I know all
Yes,
about
yeah.
CPI. I'm just wondering if we're paying for a hotel room, food, lodging, that's a lot of money.
I don't,
That
I
was my
think that's how much the
question.
course is, isn't it?
Expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, we can check.
All right, thank you.
So, you want to hold off on this one until?
Because she has to go.
No, I understand, but we'll do that in September. Okay.
Oh, well, it's October, so we can do it in September.
You want to hold off this one?
We can table it.
Can.
All right, Mrs. McAvoy,
Yes,
would you want us to table that until we get the ruling on what that's for? We have time, we could do it in September for that, for her.
no, I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
I'm not happy it's so expensive, but if that's what it costs, I just want to see how the money's getting broken down, that's
okay.
all.
So we'll see a breakdown next meeting?
Isn't there a
Does
certain
anybody
mileage?
else want to table it?
I'd like to see a breakdown
No,
at
just
least.
one thing. Isn't there a certain mileage you can't get a room if it's within
50 miles.
50 miles or so? She's not getting a room.
That's just the cost of tuition then?
Yeah.
It might be.
We don't know for sure. We
All right, we
don't,
can table
I
it.
mean,
Something to look into. What could it take?
okay, I'd like to table it.
Basically, if I may, we're approving the course. We're not approving accommodations overnight. That we would have to talk about after we find out if that's what it included. You still can approve the bill. It doesn't mean you have to spend all that money. It means that that's what you're limiting it to.
Improving the training.
So we can approve this, and then we can question the, hotel, or no hotel, whatever, at a later time.
Mr. Scanlon, we are approving a cost, though.
We're approving that it be no more expensive than that number. That's the maximum you're allowing. Doesn't mean it all has to be spent.
If we have time, can we table it?
I don't know the time frame for registering for the class, so.
Oh, then why did someone ask me if I wanted it tabled?
That was someone was me, because I just asked if we could put off to September.
We can, I don't know the timeline for registration.
Right, you might need to pay the tuition.
You have to pay it first before you
Right.
go.
I understand that.
All right, I'm fine with it. Mr. Amato, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay, in the future, can we please have it at Finance Committee so we
But
can
we
know
can
what's
still have a
going on?
follow-up on what was spent for that, was just for tuition?
Right.
Okay, please have it, all right. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call?
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. E, certificated personnel, starting on page 13, 1 through 12, with a couple changes.
Correct.
If you folks look at the long-term substitute at the bottom of the page, Brielle and Kelly, we will not be approving. They took full-time jobs somewhere else, so we're going to strike those two. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And was there any other ones? I think
No,
I got
just
them all.
those two, yeah.
Okay, just those two. So, motion?
Move.
I'll second.
Okay, Claus. Discussion?
Yes, replacement positions, we're hiring a new assistant business administrator tonight. We had one that we hired a few months ago, and she decided to leave us. It wasn't what she was looking for in the job, so we hired a new person that we're approving tonight, and he's not starting till October 24th because he's presently a business administrator in Egg Harbor City.
We're not doing that now.
So I just wanted to let everybody know what was going on.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes. F, non-certificated personnel.
Move.
Second?
I'll second.
Which one? Oh,
F.
I got it.
Discussion? So I believe we announced him earlier, Mr. Norton's here, right? Our school new safety officer. So welcome aboard once we approve you. Thank you. Okay. What department did you come from, may I ask?
Westfield Police.
Where?
Westfield.
Westfield, okay.
We
All
drive
right.
pickup trucks here, not BMWs.
We got a motion?
Yes, roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Amato?
Yes.
Mrs. Claus?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Any more walk-ons?
No.
That's it. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second? Second. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good meeting.